The other night, I lost my temper. It was bedtime. My daughter, who's about to turn 3, was upset. She was in the bathroom. She was crying because dinner time had passed. Now it was time to get ready for bed, and she didn't want to go to sleep yet. My son, who's 6, about to turn 7, was standing right next to her putting toothpaste on his toothbrush when I noticed that he put way too much on. And I reacted. I tried to take the toothpaste from him, and he didn't let me. So I snapped. I snatched it from him, and I yelled at him for not giving me the toothpaste and for wasting the toothpaste. Now, both my kids are crying. I'm standing there with a tube of toothpaste in my hand. What have I done? I'm Aaron, and I've been an educator for 12 years. I've taught science and physical education. Now I help transform fathers of young children from being reactive to responsive so that the hard moments no longer tear away at their relationship, but rather build a stronger one. Let's get back to it. The thing that got me though wasn't the moment itself. It was what my son had said to me afterwards when we sat down and talked about it. He said he didn't want to give me the toothpaste because he thought that I was already mad at him and that I was mad at him for using too much toothpaste and that I was going to take away his ability to put on toothpaste by himself in the future. So really, he wasn't being defiant. He was just scared. But I couldn't see that because I had already popped off. That's what this video is about. Not the moment you lose your temper, but what's actually happening inside you before you even know what's happening. Most fathers I talk to carry some version of that same guilt. They lost their temper, they said something too hard, too loud, and now they're sitting with it. The story they tell themselves is some version of, I need to be better, I need to try harder, I need to be more patient. I'm going to tell you that that's not wrong, but that's also incomplete. Because the reason you lost your temper probably had nothing to do with you having enough patience, and everything to do with your nervous system being in a state where patience wasn't even an option. Here's what I mean by that. Your brain has two systems running at the same time. You've got the prefrontal cortex up front, where your judgment lives, your empathy, your ability to think clearly and make good decisions. And you have the amygdala, deeper in the brain. It's responsible for threat detection, and its one job is to protect you. Under normal conditions, the two systems work together. But when your nervous system picks up a threat or picks up enough stress, enough input, enough pressure, the amygdala starts to take over. And when it does, your access to empathy and patience and clear judgment, gone. And it's not a character flaw, right? This is biology doing exactly what biology is supposed to do. The problem is that it was designed for real threats, not a 6-year-old with too much toothpaste. Research on the nervous system explains something that has kind of changed the way that I see this moment completely. It describes how the nervous system operates in states and not in tensions. What that means is that your state, or the physiological condition that your nervous system is in at any given moment, determines what is available to you. Your best intentions mean very little when your body is already responding to a threat or in a threat response state. That night for me, my nervous system had already been loading all evening. Pressure from work, dealing with middle school kids, coaching, the heat, dinner that didn't go well because the kids didn't eat everything, and then my daughter crying, which for most of us is one of the most activating sounds there is. And that's designed to be that way, right? So by the time that I reached for the toothpaste, I wasn't making a rational decision. My amygdala had already registered too much input. It was frying and fired off. The toothpaste was just the final signal. There's a concept that I want you to understand because it explains so much of the moments that catch us off guard. It's called the overstimulation window. It's the period of time where your sensory load, everything you're hearing, processing, managing, has crossed the threshold where your capacity to choose your response drops dramatically. For me that night, it was the noise, the crying, the bathroom, the kids being in a cramped, small, tiny space. But for other fathers, it might be the end of a long workday, when they walk right through the door, or a morning where they might not have slept well and the kids are already super loud before they might have had a minute for themselves. The trigger in those moments are almost never the real issue, just like the toothpaste wasn't the real issue. Research in trauma makes the point that most of what we call anger in adults is actually stress and trauma that never got to complete its cycle. That means that many of us as children never learn to process the stress all the way through. We learn to push it down, to move past it, to be tough about it. And that pattern followed us into adulthood. So when we hit that overstimulation window, we're not just carrying the stress of that day, we're sometimes carrying the weight of years and years of unprocessed tension. Now, that's not an excuse, but it is important context, because if you think the problem is just that night, well, you're gonna fix just that night. And then that leaves you vulnerable to the same thing happening again in the future. Here's what I didn't know in that bathroom that night. And this is what I want every father watching this to sit with. My son wasn't just defying me. He was protecting himself. He saw me reach for the toothpaste, and his nervous system read that as a threat. It was a threat to his autonomy, something that matters deeply to him. He's a strong-willed and independent kid, and he needs to do things himself. That's how he's wired, and there's nothing wrong with that. But because I was already dysregulated, I couldn't read him. I couldn't read the situation. I couldn't read past my own activation to see what was actually happening right in front of me. This is what dysregulation costs us as fathers. And it's not just in this moment, but also it inhibits our ability to see our kids clearly in all moments. Under stress, the parts of our brain responsible for reading social cues, for picking up subtle emotional signals, it goes offline. Everything becomes more binary, a threat or no threat, because that's what survival requires. The thing is, though, your child was communicating something real, and you couldn't receive it. Not because you don't care, but because your nervous system had already left the room. And I want to say that clearly, because I think that a lot of fathers carry shame about this when they actually need understanding. You cannot give what your nervous system doesn't have access to in that moment. But, and this is the whole point, is that you can build more access. You can build because your brain is a muscle. And you can expand that window before you hit that threshold. That is trainable. After I snapped that night, I went back to my son and I repaired with him. I sat down with him. I apologized. I told him that I was overstimulated. I was frustrated. I yelled out of that frustration, and that wasn't okay. And most importantly, it wasn't his fault. He said, he didn't give me the toothpaste because he thought I was really, really mad at him, and he thought if he gave it to me, then he would never, ever be able to put toothpaste on by himself ever again. So again, he wasn't defying me. He was scared of losing something that matters the world to him, and I couldn't see it. We hugged, we said I love you, and the moment closed with something that would have been impossible if I hadn't gone back. Repair matters, significantly. Research on parent-child attachment shows that it isn't the absence of rupture that builds the secure attachment. Actually, it's the presence of the repair that does all of the work. Your kid doesn't need a father who never loses it, right? They need a father who comes back. And here's what I want you to think about. Think about how many of those moments happen where there is no repair, right? Like where you snap and you move on and nobody talks about it. The house feels awkward, right? Your child is then left alone to sit with what just happened and no context. That accumulates quietly over time, little by little. And that's why this work matters. It's not so that you can be perfect or make the right choice all the time, no. But it's for you to close that loop more often so that you can build the capacity to catch yourself sooner. And then to repair if you don't. So, where do we go from here? What do we actually do with all this information? Well, let me give you 3 things that are grounded in science that you can start immediately. Number 1, learn your own signals. Number 2, name it. And number 3, repair when you miss it. So number 1, learn your own signals. Your body knows you're approaching the threshold before your mind does. Your heart rate starts to pick up. Your jaw tightens. Your chest gets heavy. Shoulders rise. None of these things are random, right? They're your nervous system signaling that your load is building and you're about to hit that point. Most of us were never taught to read those signals. We were taught to push through them. So start paying attention. What does it feel like in your body right before you're about to snap? That signal, that right there, whenever it comes, wherever it comes, is your entry point. 2, name it. Research from neuroscientists at UCLA showed us that simply naming an emotion, saying to yourself, I'm frustrated, or I'm overwhelmed, activates the prefrontal cortex and reduces amygdala activity at the same time. That's not soft, it's neuroscience. Naming what you're feeling is a regulation tool. It creates a gap, even a small one, between the signal and the reaction. And inside that gap, that's where your ability to choose lives. 3, repair when you miss it. Listen, you're not gonna catch it every time. That's not the goal. That's unreasonable. The goal is to build more capacity over time and then to be able to repair when you come up short. And that repair allows you to continue to build instead of tear down your progress. So go back, name it, name what happened, take responsibility without over-explaining. Let your child see what a man looks like when they take accountability. That is one of the most powerful things that you can model. If you lost your temper recently, listen, I'm not here to make you feel worse about it. I know you already feel bad, and the truth is that means you care. And that's the most important place for you to start from. The question, though, is what do you do with it? The fathers who get better at this aren't the ones who white knuckle through everything. They're the ones that start to understand what's actually happening underneath the surface and are willing to put in the work to build that capacity so that they can stay in the moment. Because you can't regulate a dysregulated child from a dysregulated state. Your nervous system sets the ceiling at home. And if this resonated with you, I put together a free resource called the Anchored Fathers Power Struggle Playbook. It's a quick reference guide that walks you through what to do in the moment when your kid pushes back. What to say, how to stay regulated, and how to lead through it instead of reacting to it. The link is in the description down below. And if you found this video useful, share it with a father that you think may need it. The truth is, we don't have to do this alone. Subscribe if you want more content. We're building something here for fathers who are ready and willing to do the work. I'm Aaron. This is Forged in Fatherhood. I'll see you in the next one.